This is Never Gallimore from the Dallas Cowboys, and I want to give a major shout out to Mike Tag. Keep bringing the hype to the Cowboys Nation. We love and appreciate it. Now, can you dig it? Let's get it.
What's up, Cowboys Nation?
Well, I don't know what happened there. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. Something kind of froze up on us, Cowboys Nation, but here we are. What's going on? Let's see. I hope you can hear me here. Let's make sure you can hear me. It says my mic is muted while this. All right, here we go. Now the mic. Okay, Mike lets me run things and then it just all goes south. So apologies here. We had some stuff going a little crooked here. We ran the intro, but we're here on a thirsty Thursday, so I'm gonna crack open a beverage right quick before we get this thing going because we got a lot to cover today and we've got a couple of really good guests. But before we get into this real quick, I want to give a shout out to Fred Jones, Cuts by Jones, one of the sponsors of the show, that we're going to be working on some things throughout the season, doing some giveaways, doing some drawings. When I was down in Texas not that long ago, he made me this really badass Texas Tech piece. He does some amazing work. For those of you that don't know and do not follow him, it's at Cuts by Jones. Does these wood carvings. These are amazing. They're awesome. You can buy them from him. Hit him up if you don't follow him on Twitter. But he gave me this piece while I was down there. I've got it hung proudly above my bed. I'm hoping it don't ever, fall down and the sharp point of the Texas poke me in my eye because I'm paranoid like that. But that's neither here nor there. We got a couple of great guests for you guys here in the Cowboys Cave tonight. A couple of Cowboys Nation's finest. One of them, well, both of them I've seen go to battle and take on haters. You don't want to come to war with any of these two unless you have your facts straight, because they will mop the floor with you. So it's a pleasure to have them on. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my girl Camber and I'm going to bring in my boy Massey right here. Y'all, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. How is everybody doing tonight?
What's happening, Kelly? Cheers. Nice to join you here on this Thursday. It's been a while since Mass and I have been on the air. We've been on a little hiatus, and so we appreciate being back.
Absolutely. How about you, Mr. Mass? What's going on with you? How you doing on this Thursday? Well, Matthew, are you there with us? I can see you. I can't hear you. He's having some technical difficulties. So you know what? We're just going to keep this thing rolling because, hey, listen, like I said, when Mike steps away and lets me run the show, sometimes things are going to go a little bit crooked, but that's okay because I tend to be able to roll with the punches. Massey, you back on. We can hear you now.
I don't know what happened right now. It just went blank and I just sat here and I couldn't hear you guys anymore. So I apologize. I don't know what happened there.
And that's all right. I was just telling Cam, I said, you know what? Mike leaves me alone to kind of run things and, shit just happens to go sideways, but we just roll with the punches. It's all right, man. But how are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing good. Just chilling out here in California. Hopefully in the next year or two, I'll be out of this state and I'll be in the great state of Texas. But that's the plans in the near future. But yeah, doing good right now.
Good. Well, good to hear that. Well, before we get too much into the show, I'm going to let you guys let everybody here in the chat and let anybody that's going to be tuning in know where to find you guys on Twitter. If you guys, I know you guys got something brewing here in a podcast in the way of you guys are the dynamic duo teaming up to get another podcast going. So Cam, I'm gonna let you start. Let them know where to find you on Twitter and what you guys got going on.
Yeah, you can find me at TOO_much_camber, and you'll find a lot of Cowboys content there. You'll find an equal amount of NASCAR content. And Mass and I, we definitely, this last year, he and I spent midday with Cam and Mass, and we are going to shift gears and kind of go out on our own, and we'll be unveiling that before camp starts.
All right, good to hear. What about you, Mass? Where can they find you at?
Yeah, on Twitter you can find me at the JA Massey. You'll get like Cowboys content, like you guys said, and then a little bit of me screaming and rambling about some UFC stuff every once in a while. So
there you go. There you go. Well, hey, I will say for anybody that's in the chat, once these guys get their podcast going and drop that, we are definitely going to promote that, because I've been on these guys' show. They know their shit and know what they're talking about. These guys can get down and break it down like nobody else can. So let's get right into this. We got it's off season right now. Things are a little bit slow. There's not a whole lot going on, but we got some anticipation to the season, and we got some things that we can kind of get into, and then and also we got the chat here to help us out if for some reason we cover everything under the specified amount of time that we have here on this YouTube channel. But so I'm going to start out with this season. Okay, obviously I think that the Cowboys got better. I think that all of us feel that they got better. I feel like that's the consensus amongst most of Cowboys Nation, besides our, the pessimists, which we have that group. Every fan base does. But I am going to dive right into the best case, worst case scenario for the Dallas Cowboys. So basically what I want you to do, I want you to give me your best case of what you think the ceiling is for this team this year. And then I want you to give me the worst case, like if the bottom falls out, wheels fall off, and this team just goes up in a ball of flames. So as always, we're going to go ladies first. I'm going to let you start out, Camber, and you break this down for us and let me know and let us all know what you think.
Our best case scenario is that this change of Mike McCarthy doing the play calling this year works out, and that this is an offense that is going to fit. We can get into the whole how much we run it later if we want to. But yeah, my best case scenario is Mike McCarthy is calling a good offense for this team, and that Dak Prescott is melding with this new quarterback coach. He wasn't super happy about this change, and I'm hoping that this is something good for everything all the way around.
Perfect. What about you, Mass?
For best case scenario, I think you got the best case scenario is Super Bowl, right? That's the best case. That's the best possible case for an NFL team. And I think that you have a team just based on last year, and you're looking at this year and what they've done, that has to have Super Bowl aspirations. You got a top 10, arguably top 5 quarterback. You have wide receiver weapons. You have an okay offensive line that can be good in some areas. And you have an elite doomsday defense. So that is a team that realistically can win a Super Bowl. So I think, like Cam said, if everything meshes together with Dak Prescott and this offense and Mike McCarthy calling these plays, that your best case scenario with Dan Quinn and that defense is a Super Bowl.
All right. I could take that. And, I feel like that's kind of the same for me, is that I don't know why I feel this way, because, we're back-to-back 12-win seasons, but I feel like it's like a Super Bowl or bust season for the Cowboys. So that kind of is it for me, because I feel like we already have the championship caliber defense in place. Yep. I felt like we had them in place last year. I felt like even the year before, but not as confident as I did last year. Last year, I felt way more confident in this defense than I did last. Even with the weaknesses that we had up the middle, against the run, I thought we kind of buttoned that up, man. And against San Francisco in the playoffs. I mean, you know, they always talk about, you know, how does your best perform against someone else's best? And I thought we did pretty damn good. You know, I thought that defense hung in. I didn't feel like they got bullied. I thought they were there blow for blow. I mean, if you want to pick out one particular play, maybe the Trayvon Diggs not going for that hit over the middle on the tight end. I mean, maybe that was their only mistake that was made really in that game that you can look to and be like, man, the defense kind of, you know, but I mean, that's one play. I thought they played great in the totality. So yeah, I mean, for best case scenario, I think it's that Mike McCarthy comes in, you know, with Schottenheimer, him and Schott run this new offense that they're kind of putting together and tweaking, and they use it to Dak's strengths. I like what they've said about, look, they're looking at Dak and they're like, what do you like about this? And what do you not like about this? Let's get rid of the shit you don't like. Let's keep, because I mean, you want a quarterback that's comfortable. And I feel like too often last year, I feel like Dak just looked uncomfortable at times where he just didn't look very confident. There was times where he'd be back in the pocket, indecisive, not really, you know, and it showed up in the results. It showed up in interceptions. So you see things like that. And I think this year we're going to see a more comfortable Dak Prescott. You know, and a lot of people are talking about MVP type season. I don't know. I don't really care about that. I just want to see a comfortable, confident Dak Prescott on that field. But if we see that, you know, obviously there's going to be good dividends. So let's jump to worst case scenario. The wheels fall off this thing, go up in a ball of flames. Camber, what could lead to worst case scenario in your opinion?
Well, you just kind of mentioned it. Number one, we don't want a repeat of 2020 and Dak going down. We absolutely need to have him as our quarterback, and this whole unknown about this offensive line. You know, are they going to keep 10 guys? You know, is there going to be 10 players on this roster in the depth, and which ones are going to go? And the rumblings of Terrence Steele over at right tackle or at left tackle, you know, I hate the musical chairs of offensive linemen. And I have a fear that this could be going on. And that's, you know, you hit it right on the head that Dak has got to be confident. We now know, you know, we're much more confident in the receivers that he has. So that interception number is going to go down. But to me, that is the key to success of this team, because we have depth, we have strength. I've absolutely zero fear about this defense and Dan Quinn and what he's put together. It's if the wheels fall off, it's going to be something on the offense.
Yeah. I would have to agree with that. Mass, what do you think?
Yeah, Cam hit the nail on the head for a lot of stuff. Obviously, number one, the biggest thing, if the wheels are going to fall off here, it's going to be a repeat of 2020 and Dak's going to go down. Then you're going to have a middle of the road, bottom of the road offense out there with the great defense. You're going to win some games, but that might even set us back even further, because we're probably not going to make the playoffs with that. And so you have a terrible draft position. So that's really the worst case scenario, in my opinion, is if something happens to Dak, the offense is bottom of the road, but we win enough games to be like right outside of the playoffs, and our draft position's horrible, and we didn't even make the playoffs. It's just a wasted season. But yeah, there are some questions. I know some people are questioning the tight ends. I personally love Jake Ferguson. I don't have an issue with Jake Ferguson. I love Hendershot. I've been team Hendershot since he was an undrafted free agent. So like, I like our tight ends. And then, you know, the offensive line, Cam brought up a good point about the offensive line. Philbin was really that guy who was pushing the musical chairs. Hopefully with him out, you know, you don't have that as much, but we'll see what we have. And the health of the offensive line, because if we lose one or two guys like we saw before last year, it hurts to rely on depth. You can't have, these guys are backups for a reason in the league. You can't have your backup starting all year and expect to dominate the league. So that line up front, while they're decent, while they're good at run blocking, they have to be much better at pass blocking this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we are all, again, I was hoping maybe we get into some disagreements here, and maybe we still will. But right now, I'm on the same page with you guys because I absolutely agree. I think I would say the main thing beside, obviously Dak, if Dak goes down, but my, outside of Dak, my biggest worry is health at the offensive line. That's kind of been the thing that I've voiced as far as the position that I just feel that I don't have a lot of certainty. I'd like them to play their best 5 guys, obviously. But outside of that, if we start getting guys to go down, who's stepping up and replacing them? I mean, McCarthy, I feel like in his tenure has shown a better propensity to be able to plug guys in and have that, you always say next man up. Well, McCarthy's actually shown that he can do that. Whereas the previous regime with Garrett, if one guy went down, our whole shit fell apart. I mean, you saw it in the game where we had to start Chaz Green. I mean, he proceeds to go off and get,
We don't say that name.
Yeah, we shouldn't. We should never say that name.
That's the name that shall
But I'll
not be
tell you
named.
what. Listen, I said that name last week when somebody said the possibility of Josh Ball playing on our offensive line. I said I'd probably bring back Chaz Green before Josh Ball. I can't stand seeing that guy on this offensive line. But that's it for me, man. Like the offensive line and the health of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is an issue for me, and I know some other people that have raised it. A good friend of ours, Dan Rupert, has raised this many times. Is, I'm afraid of Marty Ball. Schottenheimer's coming in. We know his dad, Marty Schottenheimer, and just run, pass. And it's just not an efficient way to run an offense. And so I'm worried about that and how much his style that he likes like that is going to play into this offense. And look, I love Tony Pollard. I'm happy Tony Pollard's going to be the premier running back on this football team this year, and he's going to get his time to shine. But we got to be realistic, and we got to say he has never carried a load that we know. Because I don't know about his high school. I don't how he did in high school, but I know that he was a wide receiver and did some running back stuff at Memphis. He's never carried the load in Dallas. So how is he going to respond to a heavier workload, especially if we're increasing our running amount? How is he going to adapt to that coming off of a really bad and gruesome injury? Then what do we have behind him? Malik Davis, okay, he's shown some stuff, but he was an undrafted rookie last year. Ronald Jones, I'm a USC fan, but that he's not it. So
yeah.
Hunter Lepke's been taking snaps with the ones.
I love that guy. I love that guy as a fullback who can make some noise in blocking and short distance. He can catch out of the backfield. I think John Kuhn from the old Mike McCarthy's Packers when I see him. But I mean,
this is the cat from the Giants game.
There you go. But I'm a little bit worried about the run game and how much we're going to focus on the run game and then the depth of it.
Yeah. Well, and I was gonna, since we're kind of rolling in that, and I love doing this because when we're talking these scenarios, then we start rolling into something else, and I love it. This is how the show molds itself. So speaking of the running back, I saw something on Twitter today. Even though I'm suspended, I'm still able to look at Twitter. But I seen something on Twitter today, and it was somebody saying, why is this? There's this infatuation with running, with us needing to add another running back. Why do we feel like that? Well, for me personally, it's kind of on our coaching staff, because the other guy that we're counting on, the kind of guy that's an unknown that a lot of people are saying, well, let's give this guy a chance, is Malik Davis, right? Well, yeah. Okay. They didn't give him the opportunity last year to prove himself, though. So if you knew last year, which I think pretty much all of us saw the writing on the wall that Zeke wasn't coming back this year with that cap hit, we all knew that. Why in the hell didn't this coaching staff get him some more time on the field with these starters so that you could know if this guy, because right now you're rolling in with a lot of unknowns. I don't really have any faith in Ronald Jones. I don't know about Malik Davis. He did some nice things in preseason, but that's preseason. I don't know if he's going to be the two to, the two to Pollard. So what do you think about that, Cam?
Well, Brian Broaddus told the story. I know he told it on 105.3 The Fan. He may have told it on Love of the Star podcast. there was a personality conflict with Malik Davis, and it really, especially in that Niners game, and that he was doing a lot of complaining about him not being on the field. And I would absolutely hate it that if this coaching staff, cut their nose off to spite their face because of his complaining is why they didn't use him more in that game, especially after Pollard went down. But I believe there's been some attitude adjustment that's gone on from last year to this season, the beginning of this season with Malik Davis.
Yeah. Well, I would hope so. I mean, if you got a guy in there and that's what you're going to do, which I mean, I'm still not sold that this Cowboys team goes in without adding another running back. I mean, if they decide to, there's a slew of them out there that they could choose from right now. And I think they're there for a reason. All these running backs, they want more money than they're going to get. And unfortunately, right now, the market for these running backs is, it's like shopping for that $5 movie in the Walmart bin at Walmart. It was a hit at one time, but now it's $5. So these guys are going to have to, they're in for a rude awakening when it comes to what they're going to get paid.
Do you guys think we found the guy? Do you guys think we found the guy that's going to replace Zeke's pass pro? Because you got to admit that Zeke was elite at pass pro. And I don't know, did we bring someone in that's going to, I mean, nobody's going to play it at the level that he's protecting his best friend like Zeke did. But do we have that guy? Is he there? Do you see him on the roster?
If you use Hunter. Hunter, I think so. But then are you limiting yourself on third downs, starting long or something like that? But I don't think so, because I think Hunter's pretty good out of the backfield, catching the ball. I like Hunter as a weapon. I know some people only see him as a traditional fullback, but like I said, I see him as that John Kuhn kind of role from the Mike McCarthy Packer offense. So I like him. I think he could be a really good third down back. I really do.
Yeah, and he's definitely a piece. I know when people were talking about, when they're like, well, what are we bringing in a fullback for? People were asking that. But I mean, I saw him in a lot of mock drafts, and honestly, I saw him. He kept coming up on a lot of my mock drafts that I did. So I started looking into him, like, okay, who is this kid? Because he's available here and he's in a lot of these. So I started looking him up, and I'm like, damn, this kid is like, he's athletic. Like he's not your, he's not like your old school fullback. I mean, this guy can come out of the backfield and catch passes. This guy can block. Like he's a stud, man. So it'll be interesting to see how McCarthy, how they integrate him into this offense and what their thought process is and where he's going to fit in. But like Cam said, I mean, if he's getting some reps already with the ones, that's a encouraging sign, or kind of at least an indicator of where they may be wanting to go with that running back position. But like I said, I mean, if they get into camp and things get rolling and they don't like what they see and they think that they've got, running back is a liability, and they don't have that guy that's going to be back there to pass protect and fill that role of Zeke, well, then, I mean, there's still, like I said, there's still a whole lot of running backs out there, big name guys that have, kind of in the back end of their career, but that could still come in and I think be serviceable number twos or fit right in with Tony Pollard for the right price. So, I guess we'll just kind of see where that goes. But me personally, and I want to ask you two this real quick. One more question about the running backs, and then we'll move on real quick. But do you guys think that Ronald Jones is going to be on the roster starting game in week 1 regular season? Do you think he's still on this roster?
No,
I don't. No.
Okay. I don't either. Me and Mike have talked about it a few times, and I said I just don't see it, man. I mean, he couldn't crack the starting lineup with Kansas City last year, and
he was relegated to like 3rd or 4th string.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. And I mean, when they started the season, though, they didn't know what they had in Pacheco right away. I mean, he was a guy that came on late. So, I mean, you would have thought a guy like Ronald Jones would have had several opportunities to impress that coaching staff. Obviously, he didn't. Kansas City, that was kind of a weak spot until Pacheco came on towards that, back half of the season and really emerged as their guy. So I don't have the faith in him. I don't think he's going to be on the roster week 1, but I guess, we'll find out. But so speaking of that, we're going to roll into with the moves that we have made this season in the off season. I want you guys to give your off season grades, but not only do I want the off season grade, I just want a little bit of you guys' opinion on, why you gave them that grade, and then just kind of what you have liked most the move that you like most that we have made during this offseason. And I'm going to start with you, Cam. What's your grade for this offseason for the Cowboys?
Well, I was having a hard time giving one solid grade. And I actually was chatting with Broadus about it the other day on the phone. And, we kind of went through it. And the most fair way that I came about it is that I actually broke it up into three pieces. I gave a grade for free agency, one for the draft, and one for all these coaching changes. And with the free agency, we nailed it. We hit free agency so good, so well. One of the even reasons that I even gave him a little bit even higher than I was going to is we had no idea. The Cooks deal came out of nowhere. I mean, we had major people in the media going, "Oh no, this isn't happening. That's not happening." Boom, Brandon Cooks is signed out of nowhere. The Stephon Gilmore, did anybody have a clue? I mean, that wasn't even a whisper that happened. So with free agency, I absolutely gave them a solid A on that. The draft, we didn't have that big sexy pick. It wasn't the CeeDee Lamb pick or anything like that. But the way that they went about it, I never thought we were going to take 3 defensive players right off the bat. Boom, boom, boom. But and I wasn't super happy about a couple of them at first, but after a while, and you think about it, I really think that they did some great picks. Even the Overshown one, now that you listen to Dan Quinn talk about him and how I think he looks at him as Micah being the Swiss Army knife, but in a different area, that he's gonna get used in different looks like that. So I gave them a solid B on that one. The turnover of the coaching staff, especially on the offensive side, worries me because that wasn't 1 or 2 or 3 pieces. What was that? 7 new coaches on the offensive side of it. So that one, just because of the unsurety of it and the fact that Mike McCarthy has taken over the play calling, me being a chicken, I gave them like a C+. So it kind of balances out to a B+ for me overall.
Well, hey, you know what? As my mom would say, she would take B's all day. Unfortunately, I was more of a C student. So, Massey, what do you think about this offseason we've had?
Yeah, so I gave overall grade. My overall grade was a B-.
Okay.
There were some things I did like, and there were some things I didn't like so much. Obviously, the big ones that everybody's going to love, the Brandon Cooks trade, you got him for peanuts. You're giving that second weapon where we didn't. Last year in the playoff game against the 49ers, when Pollard went down, it was basically Dak out there and CeeDee Lamb out there, and that's all we had. We had no other weapons to really threaten the 49ers defense. So you get a guy like Brandon Cooks who has been consistent everywhere he's gone. Everywhere he's gone, this guy has been a consistent playmaker. And you look at the quarterbacks this guy has played with. Now I get it. Yes, he played a couple years with Breeze. He played a couple years with Brady. But then he's played with some really bad quarterbacks, and especially in Houston these last couple of years, and he's still producing. Yeah. So I love that pick. He gives us a deep threat that we didn't really have last year. He can stretch the field and open up that middle of the field for these tight ends and crossing seam routes from these tight ends, from CeeDee Lamb coming across the middle. So I love that addition. Stephon Gilmore. Love that addition as well. I get it. He's an older guy. He is not the 2019 Defensive Player of the Year guy anymore. I get that. He's not. But he had a really, really good year last year with the Colts. He played very well. He still got it. So now where you have, what do you do? Now you can play your wide receiver 1 against Diggs or Gilmore, and now the other one gets to cover a wide receiver 2, where last year they were both covering wide receiver 1s all the time. So, it really helps them out. I really like that addition. It just adds to the strength of this defense. You get that pass rush, and I guarantee you're going to get hands-on balls by both Diggs and Gilmore. That's going to lead to more turnovers for the defense with this. We know this defense is very good at. So I really like those additions. we've talked about the offensive line. We've talked about the running back. So I don't want to really dive too deep into that right here. But I would have liked to do a little bit more in some of those areas. And then as Cam talked about the coaches, if you follow me, you know that I am a Kellen Moore truther. I'm a huge Kellen Moore fan. I wasn't thrilled with getting rid of with Kellen Moore and the Cowboys parting ways. I hope it works out. I honestly do. I'm not a big Schottenheimer fan. Not at all. I'm really scared about his philosophy and offense. And Mike, here's my issue with Mike McCarthy calling plays is everybody goes, look what he did in Green Bay. Look what he did in Green Bay. I don't think you can rely on that. When he was the offensive play caller in Green Bay, his offenses were one of the least run-heavy offenses in the NFL.
Yeah.
Since he's come to Dallas, all he's talked about and preached about is how we need to run the ball more. All he's talked about, everything in this offense has built up and led us to think about running the ball more. We're going to be more focused on running the ball. He said it over and over again. So I really, really do not think that you can rely on his Packers offenses and say this is what we're going to get. So it's a little bit it's a big question mark right now, and I'm wondering how the offense is going to work out. I know Dak is going to do his job. I know Dak is going to play his heart out. But I'm interested to see how it works out.
Yeah. Well, so my grade, man, I feel like last year, the way the season ended, I just felt like I was, and this may be the reason for me I'm giving him an A-. And the reason why was because I felt like after the way last season ended, and when you factored in our offseason of us sitting there with our thumb up our ass the entire offseason, I just felt almost hopeless, right? I'm just like, Jesus, this is deja vu. Lose to San Francisco again. We can't get past these fucking guys. You know, we win a playoff game against a team in Tampa that honestly, let's just face it, that team was garbage. Any competent team should have beat them. So while I was excited that we beat Tampa Bay and that we were sending Tom Brady into retirement, I wasn't one of them people that thought, this is it. This is Dak's statement game, because while he had a great game, we kind of dreaded what was coming up in the next round, and it came to fruition. So with all that being said, I just kind of had no hope. And I tweeted out a video almost 2 days before the Gilmore thing when the Dolphins acquired Ramsey. I'm like, here we are, they're getting Ramsey for a 3rd round pick. We're sitting here with our thumbs up our ass again, not doing anything like this. Jerry Jones can't continue to tell us that he wants to win if he doesn't do anything in the offseason. And then here you go, they get, Stephon Gilmore. Then boom, next thing you know, they're getting Brandon Cooks. And I love it because I feel like they went out and all the areas of weakness that we had, they addressed it, right? Outside cornerback, when Anthony Brown went down, it was horrible. But then they addressed it, and they got Gilmore, who was a 1 last year, who now gets a chance to be a 2. And he played solid last year with the Colts. He's still good. He's going to be good this year. I mean, with the combination of him and Diggs and Bland, I think that's going to be dangerous. That's a great. I think the secondary, a lot of youth in it, and I'm loving that. And then receivers. We didn't. Once again, Jerry Jones convinced himself, or the front office, I don't know if it's Jerry, the front office combination, they convinced themselves that they could trade away one of their star receivers and go into a season with CeeDee Lamb and a cast of, misfits. And we saw this song and dance before when they got rid of Dez, and they were like, well, we don't need a number 1. We've got, we can have all these guys to be and then it didn't work out then. It didn't work out this time. So, but then what do? They go get Cooks. We're weak in the middle. 1st round draft pick. They go get Massey. So I just felt that everything that we needed to get stronger on, we did. The only thing that I would have liked them to address a little bit more than they did a little earlier was the offensive line. Outside of that, though, I had no complaints with this offseason. I have been very optimistic. And I like all the moves that they've made, and I think that they're going to pan out very well for us. And I feel like Dak he's going to have a lot of weapons this year in terms of guys to throw to. Schoonmaker is another guy that we added early that, hopefully comes in and contributes. And Me personally, man, I like the tight ends. I like the tight end
I
group.
do too.
And I think that they got a lot of potential there, a lot of athleticism. So I'm definitely digging the tight end group. But
Let me ask you, Kelly, who's gonna kick for us? We don't got a kicker.
Hey, man,
the kickers that
call
right
me up.
now
I can make an extra point.
I mean, the kickers that right now are on the roster are not going to be our kickers during the season. We know that.
Yeah,
we don't have a kicker yet, and we're almost to camp, and we don't have a kicker yet.
Yeah, that's probably. I guess I didn't. So in thinking about things, that's something that I feel like I kind of just almost don't think about it at times, because you think to yourself, you're like, well, certainly the Cowboys wouldn't go in with the kickers they got. They're going to add somebody. But that is getting a little bit worrisome that they don't have somebody on the roster right now that you're like, okay, we need a 35-yard field goal to win this game, 40-yard field goal to win the game. Who's kicking that field goal? So, I mean, I don't know, Cam, is there some names out there that we should be looking at? Some guys that are out there that we could bring in and give, I mean, what that's a good question.
Well,
what are we going to do?
Isn't Robbie Gould still floating out there?
Robbie Gould's the name. Robbie Gould's the big name out there.
I've heard that.
I
don't know why we haven't brought him in, but that's the name out there. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what they're not going to roll into camp with the guys that they've got. Who do they even have on the roster right now?
They've got one.
Vizcaino.
Okay.
Vizcaino.
That's
and
what
no,
that's it.
That's a no-go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
well,
what's Forbath doing?
I think he retired.
He might have. Well, somebody in the chat said bring back Maher. I don't know that my heart.
He signed.
I mean,
he signed with.
Did he sign somewhere?
Is it Saints? He signed with someone. I
think he might have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that you see, for me, that's
I wouldn't
fine.
have mind
I'm
bringing
fine
him
with
back,
that.
but
I'm fine with him signing somewhere else. I mean, he'd probably better than Vizcaino on the thing, but Maher towards the end of the season started to, I think things really started to get in his head.
He's with the Jets.
He's with the Jets.
Okay.
Okay.
Maher.
Yeah, it started to get mental for him. He started to struggle at the end of the year. Then we saw the playoff game against Tampa. Obviously, he missed 4 extra points.
Yes.
And then every field goal, every extra point, every field goal, you were on the edge of your seat, just praying that it went through the uprights. So you don't need that. You don't want that.
Yeah. Well, and my whole thing was with Maher. What was just kind of mind-boggling about him is that he'd nail a 55-yard field goal, and then he'd miss a 32-yard, or he'd miss a 25-yard. And it's like, it's just, and it was never in a good time. It was never a good time when he was going to miss a field goal, or he'd miss an extra point, and you're just sitting there like, I hate chasing points. I hate chasing points in any game, and especially when it's an extra point. Like, you just feel like extra points are always going to be automatic. But since that NFL, when the NFL changed that rule though and moved it back a little bit, it definitely did make it not so automatic, because the numbers.
That's why they did it. That's why they did it.
They did.
It's a little annoying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as if football wasn't already bad enough on our blood pressure and our heart rate and all that shit, then they want to add extra points into not being an automatic thing. So let's do that. But yeah. So I mean, with the offseason, did any one of you have any disappointments? Anything that from the offseason that the Cowboys did not do? I mean, we just talked about kicker, so maybe that could be a disappointment for all three of us. But outside of the kicker, is there anything that you would have liked to see them do that we didn't?
Yeah. DeAndre Hopkins, he's still out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You put DeAndre Hopkins, CeeDee Lamb, and Brandon Cooks in this offense, and it's unstoppable.
Now let me ask you a question on that, because that's been thrown around and that's been thrown around a lot. I've been hearing that. Okay, so if we do that, right, you bring in DeAndre Hopkins, because from what I have heard and what I've seen, kind of looking in, so they say that Gallup is a guy who's basically untradeable, right? So what do we do with Gallup if we bring Hopkins in? Is he just another guy? Is he the number 4? What do we do with Gallup, and who's who's the odd man out if we were to bring in Hopkins?
Yeah, he's the number 4.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
you still use him. Like, I mean, he obviously is not going to get the playing that you originally pictured him getting. He's untradeable this year. After this year, his contract is a lot more friendly, and you can move him depending on how long you sign Hopkins for. But he's the number 4. He, his snap count goes down. But remember, we still could use him like we used a Cedric Wilson or a Brown last year. These guys. Well, Brown played a lot more, but when everybody came back, he got pushed back. But you can still use them. We still use 4 wide receivers. It's just snap count's not going to be as high as we originally thought because we didn't think DeAndre Hopkins would have been available. So, for me, if there's an opportunity to get better, I don't care that I'm paying a guy money. If somebody's better than him and I have the opportunity to bring him in and better my football team, I'm going to do that. That's my mindset.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What you think about that, Cam?
Honestly, I'm on the same page as Mass. Early on, we didn't need D-Hop, and after the other pieces fell together, I was going to be more worried if D-Hop was being relied on number 2, partially because of his injuries and things like that. I was so glad that OBJ was no longer a candidate because that was a circus. But no, I agree with with Mass that I think that we should have probably pursued the D-Hop things stronger, and then you let Jalen Tolbert and Simi Fehoko battle it out for that 5th position. Simi might have had the upper hand because he is a special teams player also in that situation. But that probably would have been the one big thing for me.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? I wasn't super crazy about the franchise tag on Pollard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially now that if you look at the way some things have played out and that Cook was released, and we had a lot of running backs going all over the place, that I don't know if I would have tagged Pollard.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I hate to go back to running backs, but we didn't even mention Deuce Vaughn, and that he needs to be mentioned. And what
I'm
his
a huge
role
Deuce Vaughn fan.
I'm a huge Deuce Vaughn fan too. I just wonder what his role is going to be as a rookie,
right?
And how much he's going to be used in this offense as a rookie.
Yeah.
So,
and do you think he has a chance of taking Turpin's return spot?
Me personally, I don't, just because in college he only did it his freshman year, and it wasn't anything that was outstanding. He didn't put up any crazy numbers. He's got speed. I mean, they could look into it, but I just feel like at Kansas State they valued him more. They valued him more at what he could bring to the offense than he could bring to the special teams.
Yeah,
and I just kind of feel like that Turpin has kind of has a foothold there because of what he did last year. I feel like Turpin was just so close so many times to just breaking him out.
So many like shoelace tackles that prevented
right.
it. Yeah.
And I feel like with the second full off season, strength and conditioning and all that, in an actual NFL team and program, I feel like Turpin can come this year. And honestly, I feel like he can improve on what he did last year. And I think Turpin can take the top off the special teams in a way where we see him getting a couple of touchdowns this year. So for me personally, I've heard people mention it stuff. I feel like that. I just don't see it. I know there's some people that have said, hey, maybe he'll get a chance, and maybe they will give him a chance in training camp. Me personally, I think they roll with Turpin and give him.
Do you think we have the luxury of having a player that's all they do is these returns?
I think so.
Our wide receiver room's looking like it is, and that he's not.
I think so, because I think special teams is so important. And he definitely provided that boost for us last year in the returning game when we didn't have a returning game for so long. He was able to flip a lot of field positions. And what Cam was saying, Kelly was saying is, I think that, I think the offseason's going to benefit him more than a lot of people. And the reason why I say that, Cam, is because you brought this up multiple times last year. He didn't have an offseason last year, people.
Right.
He played in the USFL all spring long and then went straight into camp and then into the football season. So he basically played football from like March, February, March until like the end of the football season. So like this guy was probably exhausted by halfway through the season. His body, your body's going to wear down. You can't play football all year long,
Right.
so his body and how small his body is, being able to rest and relax and get some rest this off season, I think he's going to be able to come back electric. And I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm excited with Turpin. I thought last year, like I said, I thought it was just one of those things where it was just like it was an explosive play waiting to happen. There was a couple of times there, like you said, where it was just shoelace tackles, barely missing it. The gap closing just right before he got there. But he was a guy that had some dynamic plays last year, and I just feel like that. I feel like that in order to supplant him, somebody'd have to come in and just show, if they were to give, let's say if they were to give somebody else some reps, that person would probably have to show out in the preseason. Because we remember what he did in the preseason. I mean, returned to punt for a touchdown, returned to kick for a touchdown. I mean, and
they showed too much. People figured out how to plan for it.
They did. They were like, okay, right. So we know what's going on here with this kid.
He was I get it. He was trying to make a team. He was trying to make the team. He had to do his best. But part of me was like, man, don't put all these out in the preseason, man.
Right.
Exactly. And
you notice when he went away at halftime and came back, no shoulder pads, no helmet.
Yeah.
They're like, you're done.
Yeah. Well, so my thing in the offseason was, I guess, probably along the lines it's kind of twofold. One was the offensive line. I would have kind of liked to see them bring somebody in along the offensive line, maybe a guy that, whether it be a proven vet or maybe have drafted somebody a little bit higher, in the first 3 rounds of the draft is honestly what I was kind of hoping for. At that second round, during the second round, I was kind of hoping that we were going to go offensive lineman versus tight end. I was a guy who really didn't think we needed to draft a tight end very high. Not that I'm, not optimistic about Schoonmaker, but I just, offensive line for me was the thing. And then along the lines of what you said, Cam, with Pollard, I like Pollard, but the fact that he is coming off an injury, the fact that he is a guy who is not a carry the load, we all know that he's not going to be a guy that can carry the load. He's not going to be your bell cow running back. He's a guy that's a complimentary running back. And looking at the running back landscape now and all these running backs that are out there, man, I'm a guy that, I mean, listen, I understand that we can't go out and sign everybody, but listen, when I've seen teams like the Rams and I've seen teams like the Eagles come out and make all these big moves, listen, I'm a guy who's like, listen, let's sit Dalvin Cook and D-Hop down in a room and let's figure out a way. They both talk about they want to win a championship. All right, hey, come to Dallas. You guys can be key cogs in this offense to bring us.
We have $22 million. Figure it out, guys.
But here's the thing that makes me so
figure it out.
This is the thing that makes me so mad about the Hopkins situation is Hopkins literally said, I will take less money to go play for the Cowboys and play with Dak. I will take less money. And we just let him go.
Haven't really explored that, but I would be all for it, man. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I would, if we had to burn up every last bit of salary cap we had this year, but it resulted in a Super Bowl, I don't give a shit, man. We're talking about 28 years of going without a Super Bowl. So don't tell me that if we made these moves, we're going to put ourselves in cap hell for the next 5 years. Fuck the next 5 years. We need this year. Give me this year. Right. Because if we win a Super Bowl this year, then nothing that we will have done in terms of spending money will have been a failure, right? You go all in, and that's what you do. You go all in with the purpose of winning it all. And right now, I feel like you've got 2 guys out there that you absolutely could bring in. And man, I mean, I can only imagine what the media and analysis and social media and all that shit would happen if the Cowboys went out there and snagged both D-Hop and Dalvin Cook.
I'm talking all the I'm talking it all.
Oh yeah. Trust me. I'd have to walk a very thin line from getting another suspension again off of Twitter if that was that.
I'm already picturing your TikTok videos, Kelly. Like I'm getting hyped just imagining those things, man.
I've got some things in my head already that I've envisioned. As soon as I heard D-Hop say that, he reached out, or I don't know which one reached out. One of them reached out to the other one and said, "Hey, what about us playing on the same team?" D-Hop and Dalvin Cook. And I started immediately. I'm like,
Yes.
I'm seeing stars on their helmets. I'm seeing Super Bowls. I mean, listen, make it happen, Jerry. Make it happen.
You do that, you're putting everybody on notice.
That's right.
You are.
That's right.
And
Well,
Jerry
and how do you scheme? How do you take a defense and scheme
you can't.
that many weapons?
You can't.
I mean,
You can't.
who are you looking at? Are you looking at CD? Are you looking at D-Hop? Are you looking at Cooks? I mean,
you can't. And Jerry sits there every opening press conference in Oxnard, California for training camp, and he looks at us and he goes, "I'll do anything." Well, you do a Jerry Jones voice better. I can't do a Jerry Jones voice. But he says, "I'll do anything to win a Super Bowl." And then we all know, and we sit back and we go, "You're lying. You're lying to us, Jerry."
Yeah.
Because if you would do anything, you would do this move right now.
Yeah, you got a good point. I mean, he'll sit there and you get teary-eyed, Jerry,
Yeah.
I understand that I don't have a lot of time. And being here at this camp with these players means a lot. It means a lot. Well, shut the hell up, Jerry. Quit telling me how much it means and open up that goddamn checkbook. Get rid of that fucking yacht. Fucking write a check out to these boys, man. We know what we got in the bank for this team, man. Let's go all in. When you've seen a team like the Rams that went all in and won it, and while the Eagles may not have won it, they still went all in on their roster last year and they got to the Super Bowl. When you see teams doing that and making these aggressive moves and just being like, "Hey, fuck it. We're going all in. We don't care that it's for one season." They go all in. It's a thing where you roll the dice, man. And I feel like that if you could get this team and you go all in on this team, I mean, this team has been just on the cusp. And I feel like the lack of aggressiveness in this front office has kind of held us back. Now, they've been better this offseason. I'm not going to sit here and complain and start wishing for the moon when they have already given me the stars. But, look, couple more moves, Jerry. Couple more moves. And that could get us there. So, I don't know. It's probably just wishful thinking, but it's nice to think about it. You know what I mean? It's nice to have a dream. It's nice to have a dream. But so with that being said, we got one more thing that I'm needing to get from you guys here right quick, and we'll dive into this. So I want a bold prediction from this season from each one of you, and just laying it out. I want to hear some, I don't care how crazy it might be, because this is the Cowboys cave and sometimes we get a little bit crazy here. So Cam, we're going to start with you ladies first. What's your bold prediction for the Dallas Cowboys this year?
So my backwards hat daddy, Dan Quinn, and this defense. That's right. If I had a hat, I would have put it on backwards.
There we go.
There you go, Matt.
So they are going to hold on average every single opponent between rushing and passing to 272 yards a game. Done.
Now you had both me and Kelly whistle at the same time.
Yeah.
That's it.
Woo.
It's coming. Legion of Boom 2.0. We can call them the Legion of Doom. We can call them the Legion of Kaboom.
See,
it's happening.
I'm sorry, Kim.
I've
got to correct you here, because this is a Dallas Cowboy. I will not accept any other defensive name than Doomsday. I can't.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Doomsday.
I'm sorry. It is Doomsday.
Okay. That's fine. I will. I accept that correction. But 272 yards average. Holding these teams to. You can break it up any way you want with passing and rushing, depending on what team we're playing, and if they're pass heavy, rush heavy, whatever. 272 yards. No team did that in the league last year. We will do that this season.
I love it.
Nice. That would be impressive as hell. I can't tell you how much I love watching defensive. I love watching offensive football. Trust me. But when our defense has just got another team on lock, and you see that frustration from the opposing offense when they just can't do shit because your defense is that good. There's nothing like it,
Perfect-
man. There's nothing
Perfect
like it.
example.
I
perfect
love them being
example is
bullies.
Minnesota last year.
Oh,
Defense
yeah,
was just
Oh,
bullying
yeah.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it led to offensive
Love it.
scoring, but like that defense was just bullying them.
Yeah, and then you look on the opposing sidelines and you see like the star guys like Justin Jefferson just sitting there, just like,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
couldn't do nothing, frustrated as hell. So I absolutely would love seeing that. Always a beautiful thing.
I'm pretty sure you'll have him on the bench looking like that, and Diggs will still be right next to him, holding him down.
Well, that is
Like, why are
certainly
you
a
on our
bold
sideline?
prediction, and I hope that comes true, because if that comes true, many other good things are going to happen from it. So, Mass, what do you think, man? What you got? What's your wild, crazy, bold prediction for the Cowboys this year?
So everybody's been talking a lot about Dak's rebound year, Dak's bounce back year. You know, I've seen a lot of predictions like, 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 5,000 yards, 4,900 yards. Just, you know, a lot of people predicting that stuff. So I'm not going to go with that, but I'm going to go with his number one recipient of that bounce back year, and a Mr. Sedarius Lamb. And I'm going to say Mr. Lamb is going to have a 1,600 yards and 15 TD season.
Another whistle.
He is going to put up massive numbers and cement himself among the
I love it.
very best in the NFL.
Hey, man, I'm all for that. And listen, I think with what we saw out of CeeDee Lamb last year, with basically a not very slow.
Double teamed.
Well,
But
yeah,
double
I mean,
teamed
and look at the guys
constantly.
around him. Who
And then he
was
had
scared of
5 games
anybody
with
else?
Cooper Rush.
Yeah,
Right.
and there was nobody else on that roster to be scared of, because let's face it, Michael Gallup was not the Michael Gallup we have been used to seeing.
Yep.
He didn't do hardly anything last year. So, you know, hopefully I feel more confident that Gallup's going to be better this year than he was last year. I feel like, coming into the season healthy, but that would be an amazing season for him. But I could see it, man. I really can, because let's face it, man, CeeDee Lamb's a dog.
Yes,
he is a dog. So, well, those are two bold, very, very bold predictions. So I got to now it's my turn to go out on a limb. And I sat there and I thought about it and I stewed on it. And I thought, what am I gonna come with here? What am I gonna come with? So I'm pretty sure I didn't look at the numbers to see, or hasn't looked back in the history to see if it's ever been done. I'm pretty sure it has never been done. So I'm like really going way out here on the limb, man. But here's the way I feel, right? You know, people have been talking about Dak having an MVP type season. And I feel like with Cooks being a guy that can absolutely take the top off, with CeeDee Lamb being a guy who can get guys and he can move around in formation, come in the slot, he can move inside, outside. You've got Gallup coming back. He's a little bit healthier. Depending on if we may bring in a guy like D-Hop who's still out there, possibly could do that. But, you know, you get a guy like Tolbert who is starting to kind of come into his own and hopefully can start to contribute. So I'm going to say that we are going to be Dak Prescott is not only going to win the MVP, but on defense, Michael Parsons is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. And we are going to have the Defensive Player of the Year and the MVP on the same.
I love it.
team.
Hell yeah.
I love it. That is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, you just think about, like, if that's what we get out of Dak, and that's what we get. And I'm just going to say right now, man, I mean, having Michael Parsons, you know, they're talking about having him play with his hand down in the dirt a little bit more, you know, rushing that quarter. Man, I mean, I feel sorry for opposing quarterbacks this year, man, because he's gearing up for it, man. He's got that in his mind. He's got that in his blood. He's got that in his, you know, he's getting a little bit of weight on him. But man, Michael Parsons, if the dude says he's going to rope the moon in and bring it down, I damn well believe he's going to rope the moon and bring it down. So,
you know, and if the guys in the middle, Mozzie Smith, Hankins, and Gallimore, and Odigizua, if they can get more and create more push in that middle, because that's where we're lacking, is that push in that middle of that defensive line. If they can get in there and they can cause that push and push those guys back, it's going to help out. It's going to help out Parsons a lot more from taking more beatings. That he wore down as the year went on, because he took a lot of wear and tear. So those guys.
And I'm excited about Junior Fehoko being in there too, because they've had Junior Fehoko at 2-tech, 3-tech. They're moving him all around too.
Like him
I
a
think
lot,
he was a great addition. But then I think that makes Bohanna the odd man out.
Yeah.
Well, you're probably right.
At least you'll make Mike happy by saying that, because if Mike's still here watching the show, he wants to make sure that it's not Neville Gallimore that's the odd man out, because Neville Gallimore is the guy that kind of gave the intro there. So he's like, we got to have Gallimore on the team. We got to keep.
I think it's Bohanna.
I would say Bohanna.
Honestly,
as the season went on, he kind of was the odd man out. I think with the addition of Massey and stuff, it's probably going to be him. Yeah.
And I think Osa has a breakout year, having Massey Smith and, and having Hankins there next to him.
Healthy, yeah.
I think, I just think that's just going to make Osa that much tougher and that much better.
I'm telling you guys, I need these guys to step up to get over us getting rid of the vanilla gorilla last year, and Ridgeway, John Ridgeway. I still can't believe we cut him, and he was snapped up so quickly, and did very well in Washington last year. These guys need to step up to get over get me past that trauma.
Now, so since you guys kind of brought that up a little bit, let me ask you: do you guys see us bringing, if Bohanna doesn't make it, they cut him? I think last year, I believe we kept. I think we kept five at that position, and I think we still got 5 on there this year. So would we cut it down to 4? Or do you think we bring somebody else in off another roster that gets cut?
Let's see. We got Massey, Gallimore, Bohanna, Hankins,
Golston,
and Fehoko.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Fehoko in there. Fehoko and Golston are both guys that are hybrids. They're going to move in and out of in the middle. I think they might, they might just roll with that forward, because they have guys who can flip flop back and forth.
Yeah.
And bless Isaac Alacarn's heart. I know he wants the cake, but he'll be practice squad guy for sure.
Yeah. Now didn't they talk about him moving to a different position, Alacron?
Weren't they talking crazy, like tight end or something?
No, I thought he's going to defense.
Yeah, I think they said something.
I thought he's going to defensive line.
They do have him listed as RDT.
I think
on the depth chart.
I think he went to defensive tackle.
Yeah, so that'd be an interesting thing to see how that plays out. I know they've kept him on the roster for quite a while, hoping to get some development out of him. I guess he's he's had to have shown them something.
He's a good human. He's a really
he's
good
a very
human,
good person.
So.
He's a very good person. He's a good the players love him, everything like that. He is part of the NFL's international program, so he doesn't actually count as a roster spot on the practice squad. He's kind of there for free because he's in the international program. So there's really no reason to get rid of him off the practice squad if he can't make the roster, because you just have him there for free.
Well, okay, that makes sense. I've wondered about that. I was like, man, they've kept that guy around since. Well, I remember first hearing about him when we did the the Hard Knocks.
And he wanted to try the cake.
I want cake.
He wanted to try the cake.
He wanted to try the cake.
It was a hell of a story, though. It was a hell of a story. So I'm rooting for that guy, man. I hope one way or another, I hope he can find a niche on the team where he can excel and grab himself a roster spot. But in terms of talking about that, that middle of the defensive line, what are you guys' expectations of Massey? Because I was at the draft this year, and I feel like at the draft, not to say anything about, calling our fan base out, because I think we got one of the greatest fan bases in the world, but there was a lot of, I should say, more casual type fans in there. And the reaction when we drafted Massey was overwhelmingly negative. There was a lot of Cowboys fans that were just like, this is a bullshit pick. But at the same time, there was a lot of Chiefs fans there that were coming up telling me that that was their guy. They wanted him
bad.
They wanted him, right?
Yeah, they called us to trade and told us they were taking him. And they were like, yeah, who this?
Yeah, and and if you look at some of the guys that the Chiefs recently have added through the draft and the defense, some of the guys that they've snagged up, they've had some pretty good success with some defensive players. That linebacker, was it Bolton, that they got?
Yeah.
I mean,
Nick
got
Bolton.
Nick
Love
Bolton.
Nick Bolton.
Yeah, they've got some dogs that they've drafted. So I mean, if you've got a Super Bowl caliber team like that that's going after a guy like that, I'm not so quick to dismiss. And I think, I keep bringing up the fact about, that Massey. I think I read that, they do the bench press or whatever, and it's 225, and this dude did not 225, he did 325, 23 reps.
20, yeah.
That is insane. I mean,
and the video of him doing the stair jump, I mean, he is a specimen.
I agree.
So I don't want to disparage fans. Even a good, I don't even say casual fan, even a good fan, a defensive tackle and a non-pass rushing defensive tackle, it's not a sexy pick. It's not a sexy pick. But if you really want to know his impact and what he can do, look at what Micah Parsons' reaction was to drafting Massey Smith. He told Dan Quinn, this is the guy, go pick him for me.
He called him that day and asked him for him.
Hey, this is the guy I want. Why? Because it's going to make my life easier. Look, he's not going to be flashy. You're not going to look at the box score after the game and see Massey Smith name everywhere, but he's going to do work. He's going to take up double teams. He's going to move people, and he's going to allow other players to shine. His strength, you guys are talking about his weights. His strength, from what I've heard and I've read, is Larry Allen level legendary at the University of Michigan. There is this one, I'm not big on weightlifting, if you can't tell. And so like there's this machine that I guess you like kind of pull back and forth, with your arms, and they had it modified. They had the manufacturer of this machine come out and modify it so they could put more weight on for Massey Smith. They put 800 pounds on this damn machine, and this dude did it and didn't even strain. Just did it like he was pulling back a bow and arrow. Like it wasn't even difficult. 800 pounds. It's insane, man. His strength is beastly, and he's going to be moving people all year long. Well, his career in Dallas, he's going to be moving people along that line.
I mean, I love it, man. I mean, because I can't remember the last time that the Cowboys went D tackle in the first round. So
it's been since, what was it?
Maryland?
90? Was it 06? It's been a really long time.
It's been a really long
time.
In the first round, it's been
And not only that, I mean, when you got a guy like Dan Quinn and his defensive pedigree, and you saw his excitement over it, him and Parsons both, their mutual excitement over grabbing a guy like that, because I have been saying ever since they got him, Dan Quinn, it's like he got a new toy. You know what I mean? He's got this new shiny toy that he can't wait to break out and bust out and just show everybody this brand new toy that he's got. Because, I mean, look, Quinn is a guy that I have utmost confidence in terms of getting a guy ready, NFL ready, getting a guy that's going to produce. And I think he's going to bring out the best in Massey. I think that he was brought into a great situation here in Dallas. And, when it comes down to it, man, I think, it's going to be one of those things. It's funny because, we all know that our little brother rival, the Philadelphia Eagles, happen to grab themselves what they believe is the most talented defensive tackle in the draft. And those two are going to be linked. Let's face it, they're going to be linked. For the foreseeable future. as those two guys go into their NFL careers. And in my opinion, I think Massey landed in the better position because I think he's got the better defensive coordinator. I think he's got better defensive pieces around him. And while all these people, these analysis and all these other people go out and they roll out and they tout the Eagles as being this, this great team. And I get what they did last year, but I swear to God, I don't ever hear anybody mention about how this Eagles team lost 5 defensive starters, how they're replacing their defensive coordinator. And they say, well, our defensive coordinator was a bum. Well, we've thought that before too. Brought in a guy like Mike Nolan, who just proceeded to tank our defense and make it even worse than what we thought. It couldn't get any worse when we got rid of Marinelli. So, I mean, I've seen what it takes when you change a defensive coordinator. It doesn't mean you're going to roll right in and be great with the defensive coordinator, or the fact that they're rolling in a new offensive coordinator. So a lot of things coming into play when you talk about that Philadelphia Eagles team, and are they going to be the team they were last year? Factor in the Super Bowl hangover. It's like there's all these things that people just choose to ignore when it comes to them. And I by no means, I am a Philadelphia Eagles hater. I can't say that I'm not, but I'm also a realist who saw a very talented team in Philadelphia last year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're a great roster, and I can say that. And I've said it all over Twitter before, but I don't feel that they have the superior roster this year. And I think they lost a lot. And I think that is being vastly overlooked by a lot of people. They just brush right over that. So I'm excited about the potential of what Massey can bring to this defense with Dan Quinn as our defensive coordinator. Yep. So, and I don't know what you guys feel about the whole situation with Philly, but me and Mike, we talked about it a little bit last week. And we've talked about doing breakdowns and comparing rosters, but me personally, man, I feel like Dallas is in a better position. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I'll get you guys' thoughts real quick on that because I'd like to hear it.
No, I think you nailed it perfectly. As far as players and that roster, it's still stacked. They killed that draft. They did so well. But those two key factors is that when you take out your offensive and defensive coordinator, you have just disrupted all of the balance that's going on. And so I don't see everything gelling right away.
Right. What you think about it, Mass?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie and trash them, even though I don't like them. I hate them, but they have a really good and talented roster from top to bottom. They have a really good offense. It starts with that offensive line. That offensive line is dominant. If their offensive line wasn't as dominant as it is, their offense wouldn't be as good, but they do have that crazy dominant offensive line. And then they have a decent defense. I mean, their defense relied a lot on turnovers last year. And when they couldn't get the turnovers, they didn't do very well at stopping teams, but they've lost pieces. So we'll have to see. And like you said, they lost players, they lost starters, and they lost their offensive defense coordinator. That matters. Like coaches matter so much in the NFL. So it's going to be interesting to see how they rebound and how they move on from that. But I think it's going to be I think it's a 2-man race I don't know why people are for some reason putting the Giants up there with us, but it's a 2-man race in the East, in my opinion, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I agree.
And
man.
I do have to question the fact that there are so many Georgia players on that team now. And honestly, and this is one of these things that I take a look at when I'm looking at locker rooms and I'm looking at personalities and the way the locker rooms do those guys all bind together, and that it's not going to feel like a whole team because these guys are going to still feel like they're at Georgia, and there'll be some kind of division in the locker room for it. I could be completely wrong, but that would be something I would look at.
If they feel like they're
these
still
are young
Georgia,
guys. These are young guys that have a hard time, moving on from that.
If they still feel like they're still at Georgia, then Jalen Carter is going to be an even bigger question mark than he already is.
Well, yeah, and I've joked about it, but I mean, obviously, it's not really a joking matter. But that kid's still got some hurdles to overcome before he sees a playing field. I mean, he's got a case pending on him that has yet to been decided. So,
right.
He could be making plays like kind of similar to Adam Sandler in The Longest Yard if he's not, if the law determines that he needs to. But so, Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I feel about Philadelphia, obviously. And one more thing before we get out of here. We went over the hour mark, but I know you guys are pros at this. You guys go over the hour mark all the time, so this ain't no big deal for you guys. But I've seen in the chat a couple of times. It's been mentioned in the chat, so I had to bring it up because I've talked about it. Mike's talked about it. It's been talked about. So I want to get you guys' opinions on this. There's a lot of speculation around Cowboys Nation, and this is so crazy when I hear it because we're coming off back-to-back 12-win seasons, but that Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat, and that if he doesn't get it done this year, that he's out the door, right? And it seems so weird to say it because only in Dallas can you have a coach that has had consecutive 12-win seasons that it could be talked about as being on the hot seat, but I mean, I don't see it as being that far-fetched just because of the fact that you've got a guy like Dan Quinn who has turned down numerous head coaching offers, right? The last time somebody was doing that was when, Jason Garrett was the OC under Wade Phillips and people were pursuing Jason Garrett and we thought we were going to lose Jason Garrett and he stuck around and it was kind of like, well, is there a secret handshake kind of deal here that he's the next head coach? If this doesn't go well, what happens? Wade Phillips gets let go. Jason Garrett gets promoted to head coach. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that Dan Quinn stuck around because he's thinking this could be my job. What do you think about that, Cam? I'll let you go first.
No, absolutely. He's on the hot seat. And even more so that if we do get down and we're in the divisional game, we're somewhere in the playoffs. And the reason that we lose is because of the offense and even more so the offensive calling. And Dan Quinn has done what I predicted with our defense. He's gone. Mike McCarthy's gone. It's done. It's over with. This is Dan Quinn's job. You're 100% right that I feel like Dan Quinn has stuck around for a couple of reasons. I think his love of Micah Parsons and these players on the defense is a huge one, but he's got to have that in the back of his head that this can be my team in a very short period of time. And this is McCarthy's last year of his contract in this season, right? Am I correct? Is it this year?
It's either this year or next year.
Or the next year. So, and we know contracts are easy to get out of, but at the coaching level especially. But yeah, I absolutely think that if we fail because of the offense in the playoffs, Mike's gone.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Mass?
I would say I do not think Mike is on the hot seat. I think that Mike is currently at the stake and they got the wood piled up around him and they're about to light that thing. I'm telling you right now, I don't care if he comes out and he wins another 12 games. Okay, he has to get to an NFC championship game. He needs to. And especially, look, we know now that there was tension between him and Kellen Moore. Yep. Kellen Moore wanted to do things. The front office and Mike McCarthy wanted him to do other things, and Kellen Moore wasn't able to do what he wanted to do. There was tensions, and that's why they mutually parted ways. Well, that's why Kellen Moore actually, we found out Kellen Moore is actually the one that asked to leave and get out of his contract. So there was tension. We know there was a lot of tension between him and Mike. So if you come into this season, and we know that Jerry loved Kellen Moore. So you come into the season, you had tension with the offensive coordinator and the play caller. That tension causes him to leave. And you take over that offensive play calling and you fall flat on your face. It'll be ugly. So yeah, he's on more than the hot seat right now. He has to be careful. His toes might be tingling already.
Well, here's the thing, man. I feel like they have set it up for Mike to absolutely if he's going to go down with the ship, if he's going to get fired, they've basically said, all right, look, you can run things your way and do it how you want. Because I feel like they conceded to be like, all right, we're going to let Kellen go. You want to take over play calling? You got it. You're taking over the play calling, right? You want, you're you want a receiver, you need Dak needs some help. You got to get a receiver in here. We'll get you that. I feel like they have done things to set it up for Mike to have basically a prove it season. Like, all right, man, you're at the head, you got the control of the reins here, man, and this is you. I feel like that the Cowboys definitely, or Jerry Jones maybe, or Steven, whoever it is, maybe both of them, I feel like they have definitely not wanted to get rid of Dan Quinn. And I feel like there's definitely been some backdoor probably promises being made to Dan Quinn saying, hey, look, if this don't work out with Mike, you're our guy. And I would bet, I'd bet my paycheck that if Mike McCarthy gets gone, Dan Quinn instantly is the guy.
They gave him the first 3 draft picks this year.
Exactly.
They were all defensive picks. Or
yep,
I'm wrong. Schumacher he was offensive. Didn't we go?
Oh yeah, second in the Schumacher.
No, but then we went a couple more. We had a lot of defensive.
They went heavy on the defense, and they let Quinn. And here's my thing, man. For the people that look, I'm not a McCarthy hater. I've been saying for a while that I've liked what McCarthy's done with his team. I've liked the fact that he has seemingly changed the culture of this team. In my opinion, it's a less penalized team. You've seen the penalties go down from year to year to year with McCarthy. He has done better at that. So we've got a more disciplined team. The culture is different. You're seeing a culture change. You're seeing a team that is playing better, cleaner football. And I feel like McCarthy is, I credit him. You can't give him the blame when things go wrong, but not give him the credit when things go right. So he's done some good things. But at the same time, when you're looking at it and you're like, okay, if the Cowboys were to let go of Mike McCarthy, I feel like we would absolutely be in great hands with Dan Quinn, because too often I feel like people go, well, Dan Quinn was the guy that got that Falcons team to the Super Bowl and they blew that big lead. Okay. Well, he also had an offensive coordinator that was responsible for that as well. Right. Dan Quinn still got the Atlanta Falcons to a Super Bowl.
Right.
And let's face it, if you look at that team before he took over, that team was hot garbage. And Quinn built that team up, built them around. He was also the architect behind the Seattle defense that won a Super Bowl. So Dan Quinn has been around Super Bowl caliber teams throughout his tenure. Okay. So he knows what it takes to get there. So if for some reason the Cowboys are left in the hands of Dan Quinn, then I'm feeling very good about it. Now, the Cowboys fan in me really doesn't really want none of that shit to happen, because I want to win a Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to have to wait another year. I don't want to have to sit there and pump up and have another show about, well, what do we think about what Dan Quinn's going to do? I'd rather McCarthy get it done this year. Dan Quinn goes off and signs with another team, because that'll absolutely happen if McCarthy stays and we win a Super Bowl. Probably will. He won't be back.
We win a Super Bowl, give McCarthy a lifetime contract. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, do whatever you want. If the man brings a Super Bowl, listen, if McCarthy brings a Super Bowl to Dallas, they may be able to fucking statue of Mike McCarthy outside.
Right.
Very well could be a statue of Mike McCarthy. So all those McCarthy haters gonna have to suck that up and just look there. Listen, I even think the McCarthy haters,
he will get into the Ring of Honor.
He would probably before Jimmy. That's the sad thing. That's the sad thing. That's a whole nother. That's a topic that we could take up a whole nother.
That's a whole nother podcast, man.
That's a whole other podcast, boy. Because we
put Jimmy in the Ring of Honor and kill Rowdy. Rowdy's gotta die.
He's gotta go.
To die.
He's gotta go. But I'll tell you what, man. We could use more appearances by your cat. And some more,
right?
So unleash the cat. But hey, listen, I want to thank you both for coming in tonight and taking over the show, taking over the Cowboys cave with me while Mike is away. We did not burn the cave down. We didn't cause too much.
I promised Mike we wouldn't. He made me pinky swear.
Well, he did pop in the chat.
He sent me a contract to make sure I didn't do anything crazy. So,
well, he did pop in the chat. He checked. He popped in the chat and said hi, and he's like, I want to make sure Cam is keeping things in line here, because I guess he didn't trust me and you, Matthew, or maybe he just didn't trust me. I don't know, but we got ourselves a good show in the books, and I do appreciate you guys coming on. But one more time before we go, for the people that have joined throughout that didn't get to see the intro, Camber, please tell them where they can find you at on Twitter.
You can find me on Twitter at TOO_muchcamber, and expect a lot of Cowboys content and some NASCAR.
And then you one more time, Mr. Massey.
Yep, it's at the J.A. Massey, Massey.
All right. Well, listen, guys, if you are not following them, make sure you please follow them. And if you are tuned in and not already liked and subscribed to the channel, please like and subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing. It helps broaden the scope of the Cowboys Cave so that we can bring you more content, the interviews that we bring you, the fellow podcasters that we bring on here to cross promote shows, because that's what it's all about. It's about Cowboys Nation as a family. It is one love, because everybody in this community and in this family does great work and brings things, their own original things to the table. Everybody's got their own thing that they bring to the table. And that's what I love about all of you guys, everybody that I've been on with, everybody that, even the people that tune into the chat, you guys all bring something as well. We couldn't do what we do without you guys. So please like, subscribe, and share it. But thank you, Cowboys Nation, for tuning in. You two hang around. I'm going to end the show and talk to you guys right quick off air. But Cowboys Nation, until next time, salute. And how about them Cowboys? All right, in stream.